back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger. Up next, we're going to be talking about risers and fallers after 2 weeks of Baltimore Ravens training camp. Do me a quick favor as we get started. Hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's go. So, first up, man, I have Odell Beckham Jr. Okay, and I have Odell Beckham up first as a riser, not because he's the offseason big name signing. I have him up first just simply because he stepped it up a notch in performance since his first week. In his first week, we heard a little bit about OBJ. We heard about some things he was doing on the field. But in his second week, he's kind of in news articles and video footage every single day. Big catches, circus catches, sliding catches, beating Marlon Humphrey, who was in coverage sometimes. And so you kind of hear Odell Beckham Jr. not really ramping up his workout or his participation, but just being more involved in practice and things like that. And so what that says to me, man, is he's healthy. I expect the Baltimore Ravens to be smart, Odell Beckham to be smart, and keep him on a pitch count for sure. And do not expect him to be in the week 1 preseason game neither. I just would like to see the Baltimore Ravens keep him somewhat on the wraps. Uh, don't take any unnecessary contact if you don't have to. Okay, so Odell Beckham, first riser. Number 2, I'm gonna say Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar is one of the low-level signings, if you will, from this offseason. Was not a lot of hype or buzz around his signing. Some people thought it wasn't a needle mover. I thought it was a decent signing. I didn't know what he would bring. I just knew some rumors and speculation about his game attached to him from previous years. But he's been kind of the best wide receiver since minicamp. And when I say that, I'm not saying he is the best. I'm saying he's been the best in the context of being most consistent. Consistently finding the end zone. He has certainly developed a rapport with Lamar Jackson, and he's been on the field. Everybody else has had some, injuries, some things that have limited them, but he's been on the field, and I think that has paid dividends for his escalation in this Baltimore Ravens offense. I expect him to be in that number 3 spot, uh, even above Rashad Bateman because he has not been on the field in training camp just yet. So Nelson Aguilar, another riser from the offensive side of the ball is Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers has been in video game mode in practice. From everything we read, see, and hear about Zay Flowers, he has been everything he was advertised to be coming out of college. His quickness is top notch. His shiftiness is top notch. And one could say he is really uncoverable one-on-one. Does not matter who has been working against him, trying to cover him. He has beat them all in practice. So Zay Flowers is definitely a riser for sure. Um, a guy that you may not expect me to say, um, but talking about Zay Flowers made me think of him is Kevin Seymour. Kevin Seymour is a guy who has consistently put good performances on the field day after day after day. A guy, a 6-year veteran that not many expected much from. Maybe a practice squad guy, maybe deep in the rotation somewhere, maybe not getting a lot of snaps, but his offseason performance and training camp performance has elevated him uh, in this cornerback depth room. In my opinion is that he would be slotted at the number 3 cornerback spot, not number 3 as in he's going to play nickel, but number 3, so like outside corner, Marlon, Rocky Sin, and then Kevin Seymour, because he's been that good in practice. Another riser is Jalen Armour Davis. I think that you've seen him get some work with the ones. Since Rock Ya has been out, he's performed well. He's used his length, he's used his speed to make plays on the ball, breaking up a lot of passes, being in good coverage. Now he has got beaten a time or two, but every cornerback will get beat. And but I have to put him on the riser list because coming out of last season, his rookie season, uh, I was unsure if he would make the team. And then some of the early season or early spring uh, practices and things like that. He, had some injury. Uh, wasn't ready to get on the field. But since he's got on the field, he has been performing really well. So I have to put JAD as a riser. Another riser. This may sound ludicrous, but I'm going to put Mark Andrews on this list. Mark Andrews has not had a lot of buzz this offseason. We've heard Mark Andrews' name, but why? Because he's a Pro Bowler. He's Lamar Jackson's favorite target. But we haven't heard a lot about Mark Andrews. And so now in week 2, he has ramped up his performance. He's been catching the ball and really kind of beating whoever was in coverage. And thinking about Mark Andrews brings me to Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton is a riser. Kyle Hamilton was on an upward trajectory at the end of last year, probably the last 7 to 8 games last year. He was really kind of playing at a Pro Bowl level if you just check the stats and you check his rating. And so he has took that momentum and brought that into this offseason workout and then into training camp. And he's been spectacular. Now he's been beat up a little bit. I don't mean beat up injury, but beat up a little bit by some offensive players who he's been trying to cover, specifically Mark Andrews, who has beaten him consistently over the last day or so of practice. But iron sharp as iron, and so him covering Mark Andrews every day will only make Kyle Hamilton better. So I have to make him a riser. Um, Odafe Owe, a riser. Showed a lot of promise in his first year. Had a second year slump, and everything we read and heard about him is that he was working out, he was getting stronger, he's working on his game, and so we didn't really know what to expect from Odafe, but from the time he hit the field this all season, then into training camp, he has been the guy. Right, a lot of buzz been around him. His power, his strength, his disruptiveness to get into the backfield has been on display. So coming off of last year, I would have to say he's a riser for sure. Um, I think Justice Hill. I'm gonna throw him into the riser category. Justice Hill is a guy who was a free agent this offseason. They picked him up, brought him back, and he took a step forward when Gus was out and JK was out. Justice Hill stepped up and did a good job, and he's still doing a good job catching the ball out of the backfield. And I think he solidified that number 3 spot. And depending on what happens with JK, he may slide up to that number 2 spot in the rotation, with Gus Edwards being the number 1 guy. Um, Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell has gotten some snaps over the last couple of practices, and he's performed well. His speed, his quickness, his receiving ability has been on full display. So I think he is a riser. He's not a guy that we heard a lot about um, in the beginning of training camp. But he has definitely had some buzz and some good performances in practice over the last couple of days. So I have to put Keaton Mitchell on that list. And Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is a guy that shined in the absence of Mark Andrews last year, came into this offseason um, with a lot of hope, a lot of promise that he would follow up his first year with a nice 2023 season. And again, in the second week, he has made his name heard through good performances. And so Isaiah Likely has been catching the ball, beating his guy in coverage, getting open consistently, showing good hands, making easy target for the quarterback. So Isaiah Likely has to go on that risers list. Um, I think that's everybody that I can think of right now for risers. Let's go to fallers. Some guys who have probably fallen. Um, in training camp, I'm gonna start with the J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is a guy who has not been available for the team, whether he's injured, whether he's waiting to deeper into training camp to come back and then start performing. Maybe that's to avoid injury. I don't know. There's a lot more questions around J.K. than answers, and so, but he has to be a faller. I'm one of those guys. I don't believe he should come back and jump right into the first, second, or even third spot. I think because he has not performed, I think he has to earn his way into the rotation. I don't mean earn his roster spot. I mean earn his way into the rotation because these guys are already learning, already plugging away, already performing. So that's my take on JK. You guys let me know what you guys think about JK. Should he just come in and get his spot at the top of the rotation, or do you think he should earn his way back um, into the rotation? Again, not earn his roster spot, but earn snaps. Um, Another faller, I'm gonna have to go with Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon got signed um, early on when J.K. Dobbins wasn't available. You heard his name a lot, but you haven't really heard a lot about Melvin Gordon lately. Um, and I think that's due to he has not been getting the snaps. Um, I think Melvin Gordon talked too much when he first got there. He was telling some in-house business that probably should have stayed in-house. And I'm not saying that led him to being reduced in snaps, because he's a veteran, still has some gas in the tank. But I had to put him on the fallless list. Have not heard anything much at all about Melvin Gordon as of late. So he could be back on the street soon, unfortunately. But because you can only keep um, 3 to 4 running backs on this roster. And I certainly would rather have Keaton Mitchell than Melvin Gordon. And that's if JK comes back. That's what I mean. Another fault, I'm going to have to stay in the backfield and go with Patrick Ricard. Um, to no fault of his own. He was injured, had some off-season surgery, I believe. And now that he's back, I think the Baltimore Ravens are really trying to find a spot for him. Um, I should have put Ben Mason on the riser list. I totally forgot about him until just now. But I think Ben Mason's performance has made him a faller, right? I don't think Patrick Ricard really fits into Todd Monken's system seamlessly. And so I think with his size and his power, I think that they're going to make him a multi-dimensional player, maybe some offensive line, maybe a fourth tight end, and then also maybe uh, a spot duty fullback. But sounds like they're really trying to be creative to find a spot for Patrick Ricard. And that may be more because he's already paid and under contract versus his value to the team. I'm not devaluing him, but I'm just saying a fullback nowadays has limited value. So um, Patrick Ricard, a faller. Another faller, as I began to think about it, I'm going to say Charlie Kolar. I heard about Charlie Kolar once or twice this off season. I heard about he had bulked up and he wanted to be a better blocker, and I saw some articles early on in the spring about his performances in practice, but I have not heard a peep about Charlie Kolar. So I know at the top of the rotation you got Andrews and you got Likely, so there may not be much going on for Charlie Kolar, but I have not heard about him. I know he's not fighting for a roster spot. He's definitely going to be on the roster, but it doesn't sound like right now he's in the plans for offensive snaps because I have not heard anything about Charlie Kolar. As we keep searching through the roster, another faller, I have to go with Ben Cleveland. This was Ben Cleveland's prime opportunity, man, to grab that left guard spot, right? I remember, uh, his initial press conference, and he's this big, massive guy, powerful guy, and he has just not done anything, man. He's just not done anything since he's been in Baltimore. And so when you look at the initial PR depth chart, not the official one, just a, unofficial release of a depth chart, he's not even in the second spot at the left guard position. He's actually the backup to Kevin Zeitler at the right guard position. And so He has to be a faller. Man, I just don't know what happened to him. If he's just okay being an NFL player, so you know, hey, as long as I'm on the roster and I'm getting my check, maybe that's his mentality. I don't know. Um, but Faller, another big massive guy. I'm going Daniel Falele. I know that the offensive line is trying to gel and trying to develop continuity. I did not have any thoughts at all that he would push Ronnie Stanley. Did not have any thoughts that he would push Morgan Moses. But I did expect to hear his name in in some type of article where he bulldozed over somebody, pancaked somebody, threw somebody out of the club. But I have not heard anything about Daniel Falele. So he's a guy I really like. If you guys have heard any news about Daniel Falele, by all means, drop that into the comment section for sure. Let's see. Let's keep moving. Fowler. Um, this is going to be a little controversial, but you guys know I don't really care about controversy. I say what I say and mean it. Marlon Humphrey. I keep hearing his name in practice reports, but not because he's been covering well and not because he's been, um, batting balls away, not because he's getting interceptions, but because he's been getting beat. I've heard about Zay beating him, Odell beating him, Nelson Aguilar beating him, and so I'm not sure if he's just not going full gear because it is training camp and he's a veteran now, and veterans kind of have a way to protect themselves. But he's been getting beat up on a lot. So I'm gonna put him on the faller list. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to shame his name or anything, but I just haven't seen anything that makes me say, wow, Marlon Humphrey, he doing his thing out there. He really showing that he is that guy. He is the guy, right? He is the guy. He is the number one corner, but I'm just not sure uh why we never hear anything about his coverage skills nowadays. We don't hear anything about his coverage skills. We hear more about him getting beat up on in practice. So Marlon Humphrey has to be a faller. Um, let's see, defense. Let's search a little bit. Pepe Williams, man, a faller. I think he had a prime opportunity to step into not the number two spot, but the nickel spot, and he just has not stayed healthy. He's more off the field than on the field. I have to put him in the faller spot. Um, Another guy who I believe is gotta go on a Fowler's list is Josh Ross. Josh Ross is a UDFA from last year who had a lot of buzz, got hurt going into the season, and never resurfaced. And so my thought was, wow, if we had Roquan, Queen, they drafted Trent Simpson, and Josh Ross could pick back up his play. Man, we'd have a deep rotation, and we do have a deep rotation, but just not have heard anything about Josh Ross, and I think his NFL life in Baltimore could be coming to an end sooner than later. Um, that makes me think about Delshon Phillips, uh, or either Deshaun Phillips. I can't remember how to pronounce his first name, but let me throw him on the risers list. Forgot to mention him as I'm talking about fallers. It makes me think about risers. He's a guy who's been performing well. He was going to make the roster probably on special teams, but he has been performing well in coverage, been making plays on the defense, and so he may. Now he ain't gonna get on the field much because you still got Queen and Roquan, but he has definitely upped his value to this team and could find himself in the number three linebacker spot behind those two starters. Um, Fallers, I'm gonna go ahead and say David Ajabo. Um, Not because when he's been on the field he hasn't been good, but he's been equally as much off the field. So you don't really and when his and when so when he's off the field, you never really know when he's returning because he doesn't make any noise much lately when he gets on the field. So I have to put him in the faller category. I know he's shown his power, his speed, his ability to get in the backfield, but he's been um, off the field a lot with injuries. So I got to put him on the fallers list. He's not in no jeopardy of missing the cut or anything like that. But I just think that what we need in Baltimore, and we need him to bring, I have to put him on that list. And I think that's about all that I can think of right now. You guys let me know who you guys will put on the riser and fallers list. Anybody that I missed, anybody you think I was too hard on. You guys know I'm a big guy. I can take that criticism. I say what I say, mean what I mean. That's why it's called a take. And I don't take back anything that I say. Right? If I miss the mark, I miss the mark. But we've been killing it lately. So hey, thank you guys, man, for hanging out with us, man. Uh, keep your head up for some other videos coming out probably today or early in the morning. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and we're out.